You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Welcome to Minute To Skim It. I don't know if you can see the name bar. It is not Miss Jen. It is me, Liam, and
Shanice.
Yes. And if you don't know how the show works, every week for a couple of hours, we sit down, skim through new books that are coming out for the week, and we give you our spoiler-free opinions and reviews of everything that we thought, and if you should pick it up or not. Hello. Just throw in pronouns out there. I use he, they pronouns. Yeah, sorry. Yes. Well, since I read about 2 more books than you, I'll just knock out my bottom row. So shock. Wow. Okay. Shock shop. Okay, I can speak. I was actually talking to our producer Jay about this, and Shanice was here. So it's not terrible. I'm gonna pick up the next issue. But the first story, because it's 2 stories into one. It's a flip kind of thing. Like the next story ends and then you flip it. And it has potential. It does. If they do it right, they could easily do an adult aimed like Goosebumps story. But that's what I got from it. It could be better than it was. The first story in it is definitely, if you've seen the movie The Ritual, it's a great movie. I recommend it. It's essentially a rehashing with gender swaps. It's a good story. The second one is a haunted house with kind of demons kind of storyline, which I feel like, I'm surprised that you didn't read it. I feel like it's definitely up your alley when it comes to like horror stuff. Mm-hmm. I feel like you honestly should pick it up when you have a chance, because it's really good. It has potential, and I think it's the first Dark Horse that I've read in probably 2 months that I actually enjoyed, which says a lot. So yeah.
So would you recommend it to people like who like horror anthologies to kind of get them ready for spooky season if you're not already?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because it was something that I saw. I was like, oh, I would be really down to check it out, because the variant cover has like a fortune teller, and how from the conversation that you and our producer that y'all were having. Yeah. It made it seem like they may have been like the horror hosts, like Elvira, the creeper.
Oh, yeah. Hardcore, yeah.
So that, and I'll check that out.
Oh, absolutely. Like the and the narrator, like the fortune teller, she literally kicks off the first story saying, "You know how you've seen TV? Well, this is comics." And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I love that. Then definitely you need to pick it up. It's straight up your just whole thing.
It's my vibe.
Oh yeah, definitely. Then because I'll just knock out the 2 and then we'll just go even. So Star Hench. This is issue 3. To give a general basis, essentially it's giving like the narrator kind of storyline of Tales from Dead Astronaut. It's kind of generally what I'm going with. But there's a very random and out there Merlin storyline that is exclusively that story. I'm very confused. Like, there's no words to describe how confused I am by this storyline. It has potential, but I'm slowly starting to fall off my interest in it just because they're just so super random, just very random storyline thrown in there. I don't know. It's hard to explain the storyline when there really isn't one. it's beautiful artwork still. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it had potential, but it's just fallen off, I guess. But the initial storyline, I guess, starts with this couple. They're talking about the girlfriend moving to Europe, specifically England, which explains the Merlin thing. And that's part of the first issue. The other half is setting up the Merlin storyline with no context. The last issue, the very end, has the Merlin storyline being set up, and the boyfriend eventually gets out to England to see his girlfriend. And then the story ends with the Merlin storyline and then picks up here with no context to why Merlin exists in this story. So pick it up if you like Liam Sharp stuff. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm going to give one more issue, and then if it gives no context, I'm probably going to stop. So, off to you.
That's me, okay.
Yes.
So, I guess I'll start following your lead. Start from the bottom one from on my end. So mine is going to be Phantasmagoria. More likely butchering that name, and I apologize for that. So takes place in Victorian England, more specifically Victorian London. So that was already like a positive in my book. It's obviously a horror, and it gets gory, and I really, really enjoyed it. I went to it completely blind, and I'm glad that I did. There's nothing in it I can really like be nitpicky about or be hypercritical about. I was all in from the opening pages where you see a woman's back just go like that, and you're like, oh, how is she going to survive this? And she somehow does. But yeah, if you're familiar with that program that was on with that show that was on Showtime a couple years back called Penny Dreadful, or if you're familiar with actual Penny Dreadfuls, if you like Victorian England and horror, then it's right up your alley. I really enjoyed it. I am looking forward towards the next issue. And if you've ever taken high school literature, there are some literary references in this book that's really great, especially towards Charles Dickens. So if you're a nerd about that kind of thing, like a lot of us are, I really do recommend it. It's deals with the occult or with like spookiness, and I really, really dug it. I think this might actually be tied with both my personal book of the week with another one of these, but I'll get to that after Liam's next book.
That works out then. So my management bootleg number 3. So how I set up my board is I do lowest of just like least interest to like I loved it. So I haven't read the original not bootleg, my management. So there's context with like the main characters from the original story. I didn't know it was an original story until literally last issue. And then this is just a spin-off of that side plot. And this whole issue, I'm very confused because I don't know what happened in the original My Management. So I feel like if you read the original, you'd get a bit more out of it. But I don't know, like this whole bottom row, I'm like, there's potential, but I don't know what's happening, and I'm very confused. Like, there's zero context to the original stories. It's completely acknowledging the original story, but because I don't know what happened, I'm confused. Otherwise, the art in it is gorgeous, and it definitely is giving like a reference to the original story. So, yeah, I really can't say anything because I don't know what happened.
So it's definitely one of those books. Like if you haven't read the original, maybe hold off on it.
Honestly,
like,
yeah.
So, and that's fair. It's a follow up. So of course, like they're expecting, like, hey, at least know these characters and what's going on here.
Oh yeah. Otherwise, what were you talking about from them?
So mine is going to be Last Line #1. It's from Aftershock Comics. In this one, that was okay, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. It's an issue 1, and I'm pretty sure I've said this before on the show, that a comic can have a weak first issue, but it can hit the ground running in issues 2 and 3, and hopefully this will be the case for this one. It follows a train conductor who works for the London Underground, which is the subway system.
Yeah. And
of course, something happens during her shift that you would hope as a train conductor you never had to deal with, and she has to deal with the aftermath of that. And once she talks to the police, she knows something's up. Someone's altered the CCTV footage, and there is definitely something supernatural going on. So now she's roped into this, and someone who works for the for a paranormal agency, he meets her, and they try to figure out what is going on. This one isn't really breaking new ground when it comes to like stories like these, like just like the whole like there's someone who's brought into this world by on accident or through destiny or whatever. Yeah. So it's, if you've read something similar to this, then if you've read things like that before, then you already know what's going to happen here. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. But it was one of those things like, okay, I know where this is going, and of course it goes like this. So I do like the characters. I like the character designs, and I'll check out issue 2, but don't think I would add it quite to my pull list just yet, but there is potential. Mm-hmm. So it would definitely recommend if you want like an urban fantasy set in England, definitely go for it. But, and then again, just a quick content warning about the first couple pages. I've tried to be as vague as possible, but train conductor, something bad happens.
You can, yeah.
But
yeah, that works. So the Vineyard issue 2. So I read issue 1, essentially to give a summary of issue 1. This family owns a vineyard, and they work with the god Dionysus, who is the god of wine and pleasure. And they touch hard on the pleasure aspect of him. Hard. There's content warning, essentially. Nothing openly happens, but there's a lot of implications. And there's human sacrifice. The last issue ends with their son, Adonis, who is the only family member who is not given is the first family member that is okay with what they do, which is human sacrifice. So he has a grand old time in the second or third page doing this human sacrifice. I was taken off guard. And at the end of the last issue, they introduced the daughter that is never talked about. She's like the black sheep of the family. And they touch in a bit more of the original practices of Dionysus, how there was a lot of human sacrifice back in the day towards him, and a lot of having a grand old time with dead bodies. Otherwise, it does have potential. I feel like it's a really good storyline so far, and being a Greek history nerd, it is beautiful. I recommend picking it up. If you are into human sacrifice, I guess that's like a plus. Wait until issue 3. Give yourself time, and if you want to put on your pull, I recommend that, honestly. So that's all I have. Oh,
just real fast. Just wanna because I can't really see the comments. There we go. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, okay, what's next for you?
Honestly, we make an argument this one or not.
I mean,
so, Dark Knights of Steel, Tales from the Three Kingdoms. If I bought the book. So this is actually a prequel to the Dark Knights of Steel series that's coming out right now, which is fantastic. So you don't necessarily have to read that book to read this, so you're fine. But it's still, I would still recommend it because that book is so much fun, and it really did take me back at like how much I enjoyed seeing the DC characters like in like a fantasy setting. there's like 3 stories. Of course, these characters are the focus of the stories, but the second one that features the Robins, Harley Quinn, Batman, Superman is my personal favorite. And I just had so much fun with the book. It wasn't super heavy because, again, it's DC characters and fans. Yeah, it's got kiddos in it. And the artwork and there's 3 different artists, 3 different writers, and it's like they all just knocked that out of the park. I really enjoyed it, and like the main series, it's so much fun seeing medieval takes like on these characters. Although there was a character who was renamed that made me go like, well, I'm pretty sure you could still use his code name, but whatever. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. And this is just another plug. If you're not reading Dark Knights of Steel, you really need to get on it, because I think that's one of the better DC books to come out in the last couple years. I really, really liked it. That's all I can really say about it. Can't go too deep into it.
Well, that works. Then, no transition for anything that we read today. Golden Rage #2. So one of the fun things that I didn't realize until I just casually picked up the last issue is that they have Golden Girl quotes on the back. Just quality Golden Girl quotes. That's just a quirk of mine. And it's really good. This issue was not very plot heavy, which makes sense. A lot of the plot for this issue was set up the last issue. Essentially, whatever version of the world that they are living in, anyone who is female born or has like reproductive parts of that nature, if they are deemed not useful, like reproductive wise, they are dumped on this island and are essentially Hunger Gamed, and they have to fight for their lives. And it is fantastic. It's a great take on how a future could be. There's I can't remember if it's this one or if it was, I think it was this one, of like a very Handmaid's Tale kind of esque society that we're now living in. And the main character that they're following in this is a 30-year-old woman in early menopause. And in this issue, they're trying to avoid being hunted down by this group called the Red Hats. The first issue was really thick. So that's not even spoilers in this. That's just, that first issue was amazing. And you can definitely see the dynamic between them. It's really, really good. I recommend it if you like just BA old ladies and just how a lot of people in society treat women who can't reproduce. So yeah, I recommend it, especially if you like just darker old lady humor and Golden Girl quotes. So yeah, that's all I can say for that.
Thank you for being a friend. I think it's stabbed. I have to say that. Did you want to do Boogie Man?
Oh yeah. So Boogie Man, it is a #1 from Ablaze, which Ablaze sometimes for me is a hit or miss. But with this, I feel like it's a really good take on the Boogeyman being, scary to a kid. But the very beginning of this, it starts off, like the very first page, it starts off with this kid in a, what I thought was a child psychologist's office, but it turns out it's an interrogation room aimed at kids who have experienced high amounts of trauma. And essentially goes over that kind of storyline. Which if you've seen anything like true crime that involves kids who have experienced trauma and have to deal with that interview and interrogation, you can see where that storyline's going to. Which that works. Like that kind of storyline works with this, which sometimes that can be overdone. And I thought it worked out perfectly, if I'm being completely honest. And I'm very excited to see where this is going to go. I'm probably not going to put this in my pull list, but if it does continue being like to the storyline that I'm expecting, I might, honestly. There's nothing, I can't really say anything because it'll spoil the entire story, but if you like a boogeyman taking, I guess like taking on a kid who has experienced like anything from like his general profession, it works really, really well. I recommend it if you like that kind of storyline. So, you.
So me, Batman 127 from Chip Zdarsky. So I'll start by saying that I have enjoyed every issue that he's put out so far. And when he was announced to write Batman, I was, of course, very excited. I adore his Daredevil run. I've enjoyed the other series that he's worked on. So him working on Batman was like, oh, this is great. So there is one thing I've been seeing other people talk about this book is that, you know, that he relies a little bit too much on previous Batman runs, so he references to previous Batman books, and to me, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as if, like, if you haven't read any of these stories, then you're gonna be completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, how these characters and how certain references are brought up, it's like, oh, let me go back and check this out. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that in the first 4 pages, there is a reference to a past Batman story. I don't want to mention what it is because, you know, spoilers. But you can still understand what's going on in the dialogue between Batman and spoiler character. And this issue, I loved it so much. I think it's the strongest issue from this series so far, which is really saying something. And something that's kind of bothered me about Batman in recent years is how certain writers will kind of write the Bat family as his soldiers, or just kind of like in like an army sense or a military sense, and not as his actual family. Like, these are his sons, his daughters, these are people that he loves and cares about. And that's something that in this book it is super obvious. Like, this is Bruce. But like, Bruce is capable of love. He loves people. He loves the Bat family.
He's a human,
right? Like, he's actually human. He's not like some soulless, emotionless machine. Yeah. So, if you're not reading if you're not reading the Batman book now, please jump on it. Along with, quick plug, Detective Comics from Ron V, but it's also very good. If you're able to, please, because I went on Twitter before I got on the show today, and there's already like people spoiling like the last 2 pages, which bummed me out because it's such like a oh snap moment. Because I love this character. I think people are too hypocritical of this character, but seeing this person pop up in this book was like got a genuine like holy crap reaction for me. Hi, Will. So definitely pick this book up. Don't read anything about it. Don't read any spoilers, and just embrace the Bat. I don't know.
Avoid the internet until you read it, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, go to your shop and buy the book and just run to your car and read it. Like, that's I'm being really serious with that. That's my review for Batman 127, which was tied with Phantasmagoria as my favorite book of the week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So these two are my absolute favorites.
That's impressive. I feel like I've been hearing that same thing with a lot of the detectives too, of just like avoid everything that you can before you read the book.
Right.
That's what I've been hearing with a lot of those Batmans lately too.
Right. That's okay.
No, go ahead.
And it's like, you know, of course, like, you don't want to get spoiled for any book, but it's like, I think it's when comics have genuine like oh crap moments, like it's far into.
That's what I wish, and that's what I've been wishing for like a lot of like, not even just DC, like a lot of places of just like, oh my gosh, like that kind of thing. I'm just like, my mind has been blown and I don't know where any of the remnants are anymore.
And it generally evokes like an emotional reaction, which I love this book so much. It's great.
Oh wow. Well then, it's a fantastic transition. So I sped read this because you let me read your issue 1 a few weeks ago, I think, of 8 Billion Genies. And I love it so much. I understand now why, because like I sped read issues 1 through 3, and then this one obviously today. And I have been loving where this story is going, and Jen has been mentioning like rumors of a TV show, and I can see it. I can absolutely see a TV show coming out of this. If you don't know what's been happening in this story, essentially everybody on Earth about up to this point, 8 weeks ago, got a bunch of genies. The population at that point started with 8 billion people, and obviously 8 billion genies. And now, up to this point, at week 8, there are 1 billion people left on Earth and falling. And it is fantastic, and there's a humongous twist, huge. I would not have ever predicted it kind of twist that happens in this, and I literally had to like I stopped and I was like, what? And I was like, okay, and then I continued reading it. So yeah, honestly, like it starts off like very out there. I can't really say anything, but essentially one of the people in this, they make a wish. I couldn't even predict it where that wish was gonna go. But it works out really well, if I'm being honest. And it does honestly like make a very big impact on like what kids would wish for, like 11 to 12-year-olds. And the fallout of those specific wishes of wanting to be a superhero and what will happen if you are like 11 to 15 and wishing to be a superhero. There are going to be consequences, and they acknowledge that a whole lot in this. And honestly, this might not go on my pull list, but I will actively keep up with it. It is fantastic, and the art in it is beautiful still. So yeah.
And I have been begging and pleading that someone at Image Comics just watching the show at random.
Yeah.
I would love to see like the genies and like little plushies or little like enamel pins, because I love so keep in mind this is a second printing for issue 4. So we're just saying something because this book has gone into multiple printings, and it's not just hype. This book is genuinely good, and this issue 4, like Liam said, there is a reveal in it where it's like, oh my god,
I was like, this happened.
Right.
This is a thing.
And it's like it makes complete sense. It's not one of those like completely like just like out of nowhere ones. It's like, okay, come on, what? But
like but it makes sense though.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes you go back to the first issue, like, okay,
like this makes more sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with its comment. Definitely it's gonna be like the next Something's Called the Children.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of word of mouth. It's fantastic. Like everything from this book, the writing, the art, the genie designs. Yeah. Which again, if someone from Image Comics is watching this, a plushie or a shirt with a genie.
I feel like it would work as like customizables. Like you have like a line of clothing, like graphic tees, certain things. So the genies in this are customized to the person that has the genie. So, I mean, customizable genies would be a really cool product line. I would buy the one.
It's like glasses and rock sprays. I'd be the first one to buy it. See, yeah, definitely. Also, please read Abel and Genies.
Oh yeah,
it's so good.
It is beautiful, and I think we only have issue 1 and issue 3 left on the floor, and that's it. So,
my last pick of the week is going to be Batman: Dear Detective.
I've been hearing hype for this for weeks.
So I'm going to be completely honest. I was very cynical when I saw this book announced and I don't want to be cynical about comics. I really don't. But it's like, okay, so it's the artist's variant that he's already put out in one book. Nothing really new. Okay, how can you make a comic based off of this? I was wrong. So it does reuse like and I can't open a book to show you because I'm not allowed to. Yeah. But I'm sure you can Google like his artwork. The images are put together in a certain narrative, and there is a story that combines all of them together. And as you're reading it, you have to solve a riddle / puzzle. So
I hate puzzles.
But it's great because it's like, okay, look at the pretty. Oh wait, hold on. So yeah, I was like legit in the back. Like I had like a little pen and paper. I'm like trying to like use that as like a little cipher as Liam goes through it. And as you keep going, you'll see and the artwork is beautiful. I don't mean that as like a knock against this book,
gorgeous.
but it's like, how can you make a book with variant covers? Not the critical thinking. This book is making me think I don't like this. No, but it's not like a puzzle you're gonna be like just like thinking about for like
it's just
hours.
Like ciphers.
Right, it's like So we're kind of going back. It's like, hold on,
this art is gorgeous, though. I'm just
again, if you're familiar with the artist's work, you know it's 10 out of 10. It just surprised me because it's like, I don't understand you can make a book out of this, but fine, whatever. But
it works though,
right? It really does, and again, like, it's not just like random images just like slapped together in a book. They are put together in a I guess it does make sense as you're reading it. Like, I don't want to like go into too much detail about it, but it's not just like random Batman issues like after one after the other. It does tell a story.
Yeah.
And I do tip my hat, like, because it's something I've never really heard of someone doing for a comic book. I would like to see other artists kind of do this. Like, it was
I feel like it would work if a lot, like, because the cover art in it and like the art in this beautiful, gorgeous. I am a sucker for art. I grew up in a very artsy household, and the nice thing about these is that it's more so like the ciphers are explained and it just puts it in parentheses. I didn't fully obviously read it, I just flipped through it. But I feel like, as much as I despise puzzles, I feel like the puzzles in this aren't that hard.
Right, like you can knock it out super easily. It's you know, is you're kind of going back, like Leah said, it's just ciphers. You just try to figure out like what's going on. But you're not gonna like
you're not gonna slam your head on the table and be like, what is this? So that works out perfectly then.
So it was a lot of fun, and I guess if I had any critique about it, like, I wish that it was just like a original graphic novel instead of like a singular issue.
Yeah.
If they do more, then that's great. But it's like, I feel like they could have released it in like a nice little hardcover.
Yeah.
And just do it like that.
I feel like it would have been a perfect like coffee table kind of book.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Because this, I mean, the art, it's beautiful, and I just feel like like the cover, like, it looks fine, but there were some pages in there where it's like, is the resolution high enough on this or what? But again, not a terrible thing. It's really good.
I feel like if it does get released in a hardback, I feel like they need to do it kind of like how Marvel's been doing it, where they've been releasing like those the Batman, Captain America, and I think Black Panther, the ones with the gold pages that we have. Mm-hmm. I feel like if DC started doing that with a lot of stories like that, like with Dear Detective, I feel like there's potential there. Like, if they do that with these hardbacks and make them into coffee table stories and like coffee table types, I feel like that would be beautiful, especially for like the nerds who are also realtors who want to stage a house. I don't know. That's all I got on that too.
Just add like a bit of class to your house. Here's a Batman book.
Like, here's Batman. Anyway, so moving on to my last book, Survival Street #2. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I'm very excited to see where the storyline is going. So essentially, to give a bit of background on the state of America and essentially the world now. So America, about 20 or 30 years in the future, or I think like 10 or 20 years. It's a very near distant future. Essentially, America passes a law that corporations can run for president. So, the first issue you see, it is very heavy, I guess, in politics. It's not like the stereotypical politics, but it does touch on police brutality and human rights violations, mostly aimed with Muppets. And then, so like last issue, it touches on corporate greed and corruption. And then this one, it touches on police brutality and I guess more human rights violations and gun laws. It's not heavy on the politics. It's very funny when it comes to that knowledge. And then it does give a bit of the background of this character that you can't really see. Herbert, he is essentially like the leader of this group, like this, I guess like Sesame Street Muppets group, and does touch on a bit of modern day slavery, I guess. And it is perfectly chaotic between the flashbacks of his background and then the modern day of what's happening, and it is fantastic. They have a complete knockoff of the NRA, which is Texas. It's Texas. That literally, like, Texas is called it's the WRA, but I don't remember what the first one is, but it's Rifle Association. I can't remember what the W means in it. But it is a fantastic, I guess, caricature of politics and how capitalism can corrupt the mass. So that's probably not gonna be on my pull list, but I'm absolutely gonna pick it up every single time that we get an issue, though, because it's just a beautiful caricature. So yeah. Anyways, have you been reading it?
I have not, but the way you described it, it made me think of there's a book that was similar to that. Like it's not about puppets. It's actually a pretty sharp political satirical book, but it featured kaiju. I think it was called Kaiju Max or something. So I remember like walking past it for like months, and it's like, oh, this is actually a pretty sharp book about like the prison industrial complex. So I was like, oh, okay. I like the premise of it. It's one of those things like I didn't get issue 1, so I may have to just wait until the trade paperback comes out. Yes, I'm one of those people who waits for trades. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's beautifully done, and I feel like every issue is definitely going to touch on how capitalism can corrupt the masses and how it's going to slowly flood out into the world. And it's just beautifully done. I love it. So, yeah, essentially that's everything. I don't know where to go from here.
That's everything. Yeah. And of course, as far as I think you guys can tell,
Nigirus.
Dinner sounds amazing right now. I kind of want to be nosy and ask what you're cooking, but I'm not sure.
Tell us. He always cooks the best stuff. I think, what was it, last week? So,
she has transformed into 2 people.
She has. I don't know if you're aware, I am now Miss Jen. I have absorbed her.
Instead of Legion, we are Jen. So, Legion.
We are Jen.
She, sorry. What were you about to say, Liam? Ooh. Space Cadets Borg.
Then what's this week, Nigirus? Because I won't be here for an hour.
See, it's funny because actually
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I think that's it for us. It's like we keep leaning in to see. It's like post food. It sounds amazing. Like I've had pork chops in a while too. Please send us some. Begging. I guess we can wrap it up.
Yeah. So then it's been me, Liam, and
Shanice.
And this has been Minute To Skim It. And we will see you next week. Bye, guys.